Welcome, guys, to this week's episode of Heavy Metal Tones. With me, your podcast host, Tony Evans. A little bit of a change from the norm here today. I'm recording at night time. I did record this during the day yesterday, but really didn't like the outcome. So, as you know, we've got to edit ourselves sometimes, haven't we? I just said some things that I didn't think were wholly correct, so I thought I'd come back and record it. So tonight's I'm double handing. I've got a cup of tea and a very nice single malt. Cheers. Very nice. So this week's episode is all about the new EP by Heads for the Dead, In the Absence of Faith. Before we move on to that particular EP that was released on the 1st of September 2023, so if you're listening to this in the future, that's when it was released. I got it a week early from the brilliant people at Pulverized Records in Singapore. They were absolutely fantastic to deal with. They were really brilliant. They got it to me quickly. They even refunded me the difference because they accidentally overcharged me for postage. I mean, that never happens in this modern world. It just doesn't happen. It really feels there's a nice personal touch. Roy at Pulverized Records said that they've been around since the mid-90s in Singapore. Him and two other members of his company have produced some really interesting death metal. That's what they're really into. They've done stuff with Amon Amarth and so on, and some of the stuff they produce have gone on to become quite collectible, and I can see why, because the product itself and the company themselves are brilliant. So just big shout out to Roy there. I really hope that we get to work with each other again in the future, or I get to buy stuff from you in the future. That'd be great. So let's move forward on to Heads for the Dead, In the Absence of Faith. Before we talk about the EP, which is a stunner, just let you know, it's one of my favourite bands. I want to talk about horror movie themed metal. Okay, there's a lot of it around if you look for it. I think horror movies, let's be honest, the theme of horror movies and the darkness of scary movies really sort of beds well with the ins and outs of heavy metal. I mean, it always has done, hasn't it? There's been that sort of topic in and around the genre for a long time, right from the beginning of its birth with Black Sabbath's Black Sabbath, okay, which is very heavily influenced by Mario Bava's Black Sabbath, of course. A brilliant black and white movie, which I highly recommend if you haven't seen it. See it, I think you can get it on YouTube quite easily now. It's got Barbara Steele in it, and it's absolutely brilliant. One of my favourite movies. Anyway, so horror movie bands. There's a lot of them around, okay? So I thought, where would you go, and who would you... If you said, Tony, where would I go before I start listening to Heads for the Dead? What should I listen to? And I'm really getting into this horror movie genre, because we are getting close to Halloween. What would you like? What bands should I listen to? And I got a quick list here, okay? Now, I jotted this down earlier today, so if you want a bit of paper, crumple. So VHS from Canada, they basically do heavily sampled filled horror thrash. I've got, in fact, a couple of their albums on cassette, and they absolutely do not let you down. They are not it's not easy listening by any means, so people out there who listen to our podcast who are new to this form of music, especially death metal, horror movie metal is a fun one to do. But it can be quite hard sometimes to listen to. Then you've got Fulci. Now, Fulci is named after the Italian gore meister Lucio Fulci, who's one of my heroes as a film director. Terrible movies, but they are absolutely swathed in fabulous fabulous gore. They made movies like City of the Living Dead, The Beyond, and Zombie Flesh Eaters. The Beyond being one of my favourite movies of all of the Italian subgenres, exploitation movies. And then you've got Make Them Die Slowly, a UK band. Now they're named after the band UK Video Nasty, Cannibal Ferox. Not a movie, people out there, that I'm going to tell you should go out and watch, because it can be quite hard to watch. There's an edit of it which has a bit of animal violence in it, so I'm sorry, trigger warning, don't go and grab that if it's going to cause you problems. It is actually quite stupid, and it is very graphic and quite nasty, but some of the gut munching scenes are something to behold if you like a gore movie. Then we've got Cropsey Maniac. Now they're basically named after The Burning, the movie with the not all splatter movies and serial killer movies of the 80s were Jason and Freddy, right, or Michael. This one's named after Cropsey. It's The Burning. It's a movie that Tom Savini did the special effects on. It's one of my favourite of his. The special effects in it really do blow your mind, considering it was on a very low budget. He'd worked mainly with Romero on Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Martin, things like that. Okay, the Crazies, and I think he started out on a little unknown movie called Children Play with Dead Things. Anyway. And then we get Liquid Flesh. Now, Liquid Flesh are a band that make me smile in a very strange way. I shouldn't really say why they make me smile, they just do. But they pay homage to body melt movies. That's my favourite, one of my favourite subgenres of the gory horror movie genre. I really like Street Trash, one of my favourite movies of all time. Very, very hard to get hold of. If you do get to watch it, I had to really hunt mine down on DVD years ago. There's a fantastic dick mutilation scene in it. You have to see to believe. And the special effects are done by Jennifer Aspinall. And she just is brilliant, for considering that she's still working in the field, considering that she's still one of the only real female special effects guys out there. Her body melt gooey is about the movie's about a guy owns an off license, a bottle shop, and he finds a bottle of this box of this Viper hooch in his cellar, and he sells it off to the tramps or the down and outs or the hillbillies. They're not hillbillies, wrong word, sorry. Just the people on the streets for $1 a bottle, and when they drink it, they melt. It is pretty bloody fantastic as a movie, actually. And then we have another band called Altar of Giallo. Now, Giallo is an Italian genre movie. Basically means yellow. The Italians had a series of sort of murder mystery books that came out in the 60s and 70s that were yellow covered, and there were Giallo books. And the art of that movie is to be basically sort of leather gloved murderers you don't see killing beautiful women, and it's all sort of absurd, strange storylines. And honestly, the master of that really is Dario Argento. His Giallo movies like Bird with the Crystal Plumage, to be one of them, is just it's just a crazy, brilliant movie. Of course, he went on to make much more graphic movies like Suspiria and Tenebrae and Inferno, but he's one of my heroes. He also his beautiful use of colour, but he used the Goblin as a soundtrack. Guys to make the soundtrack. Now, I did an episode talking about Goblin before. They were like a prog band from the 70s that basically made this incredible keyboard suspense music that's brilliant for this kind of genre. And I think Altar of Giallo do actually mix some of Goblin's music in. A lot of the tropes of this genre of music is that they do tend to sample the horror movie moments, and you'll find that Head for the Dead do that as well. But coming back to home, I interviewed a band called The Burning from Perth a few weeks ago. If you've been listening to my show, you'd know. And they basically are a zombie influenced thrash death metal band, and they basically wrote the whole album based around the zombie genre, heavily sampling things like Night of the Living Dead and so on, and they make it's probably one of the best horror themed albums there is in the market by a long way. And as I said when I interviewed them, I genuinely mean that. I think the guys are top draw, and so if you're going to listen, delve into the horror themed genre, maybe that's the way to start with Homegrown. Go with The Burning, The album is The Living Dead. You can find them on Spotify and on iTunes, and you can listen to my interview with them a few weeks ago on the show. And then follow my lead, go try Fulci. Fulci's more prog, to be honest with you. A lot of prog in it. A lot of keyboard and instrumental pieces. If that's not your thing and you want it harder, than VHS and Cropsy Maniac and Liquid Flesh. I mean, there's a lot more out there than that, but this is my pick. But we're going to talk about the incredible Heads for the Dead EP, which, as it came out a few weeks ago, or last week here. I've had it for a little while, and it is a stonker, an absolute, I give it a Heavy Metal Tones 5 stars out of 5 stonker of an EP. It is their best work so far. They've produced 3 albums, 2 EPs, Serpent's Kiss, Into the Red, The Great Conjuration. They're the 3 albums, Slash and Roll, and this one now, In the Absence of Faith. Slash and Roll is an interesting EP because it's mainly about sort of your as it says, slasher movies. So it's got like Halloween, and it's got Maniac on it, and those 2 are brilliant pieces of sampled horror themed madness. I mean, clearly these guys that make this music really are into their darker movies, and as I always have been, a little lesser these days than I used to be. Before I got, basically before the kids. I think before then, when I was really in the industry, I was really into it. I'm sort of have my toes still in the water, with it. Mainly through the music, actually, now these days, more so than the movies. My daughter's really I've passed it on to my oldest daughter. She loves horror movies, and good on her. Fantastic. But not all horror movies are violent, by the way, so please don't think that just because these things I'm talking about now are quite graphic and aggressive, that doesn't always make for a good horror movie at all, by no means. One of the most horror movies ever made is a movie called The Haunting, and it's a black and white paranormal movie. It's absolutely brilliant. Anyway, that aside, so we're going to go to the break now, and I will come on the other side and we'll chat about Heads for the Dead's new EP, In the Absence of Faith, on Pulverized Records. Out now, folks, out now.
Head over to Hulu this March, where our new shows and movies will keep you streaming all month long. Catch the award-winning movie Poor Things, starring Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, and Willem Dafoe. Check out the new documentary, Freaknik, The Wildest Party Never Told, about the iconic Atlanta Street Party. And don't miss FX's Shogun, a reimagining of the epic tale, starring Anna Sawai. So, what are you waiting for? Go stream something new on Hulu.
Welcome back, guys. So, In the Absence of Faith by Heads for the Dead. So Heads for the Dead have been around now for quite a few years. They're a sort of a death metal horror themed supergroup that have, as I said, have released 3 albums and 2 EPs. I first came across them about 2 years ago and absolutely fell in love with their sound. They have got much more aggressive, sort of easier to listen to. I think I'm getting used to their sound, but the first album is quite intense, quite layered and dense, and I would say a great intro to the band. But if you want to jump into the band first, what I probably would do is jump into Slash and Roll, their EP. Then I'd go into the Red, and then I'd go into Red, and then I'd go Serpent's Kiss, and then I'd go to The Great Conjuration. It only because it's just I think if you head straight for Serpent's Kiss first, you might find it a little too not all of us, some of my listeners will be no problem with it, but new people to the genre might find it a bit hard to get into. The band consists of Johnny Peterson on guitars, bass, and effects, Matt Moletti also on all solos. And now, if I get these names pronounced wrong, I do apologise, guys. John Rudin on drums and Ralph Hober on vox. Now, Ralph Hober is a really nice guy because I bought some shirts or a shirt from him from his page, and he was just really helpful all the way through. Just like a decent guy. He's recorded at Studio Unbound in Sweden. It was vocals were mastered at Audio Spielheizen. I can't pronounce that properly, in Germany. The lyrics are by Ralph Haber. All right, so the tracks on the album. I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go through track by track now. Sonically, as I said, this is for me their easier to listen to. It's the most accomplished. It's the cleanest. It's the most radically for them. It's the most radically listenable. Like, I find it extremely re-listenable, and I find it groovy in a way that you wouldn't expect a death metal song to be groovy. Okay, it has this real re-listenability to it. Now, okay, it's 5 tracks running at 23 minutes, okay, and 35 seconds. Each track is linked to a movie. All of the songs on this album really link to the phrase "in the absence of faith." Now, they're all basically around the attack of the soul, or the loss of faith, or the darkness of the void without God or Christ, or wherever, insert your deity here. Okay, obviously these are Christian based, but you could really interpret this any way you want. The first song is called Heart of Darkness. Now, Heart of Darkness is based around the movie Apocalypse Now. Now, you might say, what's that got to do with satanic possession and all that sort of thing? Well, actually it does, because the story itself, I'll read you a synopsis. So it was directed in 1979 by Francis Ford Coppola, and this is the synopsis. In Vietnam in 1970, Captain Willard Martin Sheen takes a perilous and increasingly hallucinatory journey upriver to find and terminate Colonel Kurtz, Marlon Brando, a once promising officer who was reportedly gone completely mad. In the company of a Navy patrol boat filled with street-smart kids, a suffering-obsessed air cavalry officer, Robert Duvall, and a crazy freelance photographer, Dennis Hopper, Willard travels further and further into the heart of darkness. So it does, because what that's got to do with, maybe it's not, as simple and cut and dried as Satan and God. It is this man's journey into his own darkness, his own absence of faith, almost, because he's in a world that is crazy, right? He's got to kill men for no reason. He's got to protect himself. He's got to live in a jungle on a river. He's, where any moment he could die, or any moment his people in his protection could die. And then when he meets this man, he's got to then terminate him. And really, the same man has gone mad himself because of the craziness of war. So it's got a brilliantly hooky middle eight, this song, right? The lyric, I'm not going to go through the lyrics with you, because I want this time around to you to explore them and see if you get them. But there's a wonderful chorus where he does sing "in the absence of faith," right? Heart of Darkness, and it does really grab you. It really grabs you. It's a brilliant opener. I thought to myself, this is a strange one to have on an album that's basically all sort of proto-Satanist, demonic possession style themes. But I can see where they were coming from with this particular movie, because it is one of my favourite movies, actually. It is quite a hard watch. I walked out of the movies when I first saw it. It was on with double bill with Deer Hunter, and I just struggled. And it wasn't, I don't think it was to do with the movie being bad. It was, I was like 16, and I found it really overwhelming. I'm honest, to be honest with you. I have seen it since, and it's amazing. Now, the second song on this EP by the way, which is also recorded on at 45 RPM on the vinyl, because it gives you a wider tracks and more bass, more volume, as I found out after researching after my Peel copy. I didn't realise why you did it on 45. So it gives you more bottom end, more depth, more volume, and because of the groove is wider, and it's on a beautiful splatter clear vinyl. It's fantastic. It does come on a yellow swirl and also comes on a black as well. Very limited in numbers, 100 for each of the two colours, and I think 200 for the black. 99 now, because I have the clear one of the clear ones. Anyway, so the next track is based on 1976 Brian De Palma's classic Carrie, Stephen King's novel, which is basically a attack at small town isolation. Sorry, I can't say it. Isolation and the absurdity and tragedy of Middle America and its and post-war Christian fundamentalism. Now that's a big deep thing to talk about, but it is, right? It's about, as I said, I'm going to read you the synopsis. Those that have never seen the movie or read the book, I highly recommend to read the book first. It is much better than the movie, but this is still a cracking movie. In this chilling adaptation of Stephen King's horror novel, withdrawn and sensitive teen Carrie White, Sissy Spacek, faces taunting from classmates at school and abuse from a fanatically pious mother, Pippa Laurie. At home, when strange occurrences start happening around Carrie, she begins to suspect that she has supernatural powers. Invited to the prom by empathetic Tommy Ross, William Catt, Carrie tries to let her guard down, but things eventually take a dark, violent turn. Now, it's not because she's possessed by the devil as such. It's because she has, there is that sort of, in the paranormal world, there is a theory that prepubescent and pubescent girls and boys, girls mainly, can create poltergeist type activities, which happens in the movie, because in the movie she does start puberty and things happen quite uncomfortable for boys of my age when I first saw it. Now having daughters, it doesn't bother me too much. It still makes me feel a bit uncomfortable, and of course it goes wrong because she gets picked on because she's not normal, even though she technically is normal. It's just that this white middle class town with your blue-eyed, blonde-haired jocks and prom queens and cheer squads, she's different, right? So therefore she must be outcast. And that creates this sense of angst in her, which creates the violence, which comes across beautifully in the song. It's very much a Heads for the Dead kind of trope. The solo in this particular song is one of my favourites on the album. The solos on this particular EP, album/EP, mini maxi EP, I would call it. They're very Nwabum. They're very clean, very different to what you might hear from any of other solos on Heads for the Dead's other recordings. It's almost sophisticated, clean, and different in genre sounding. I really love the solos that Matt's got going on this particular recording, particularly in this track here. And also the drumming is superb, absolutely superb. And the great thing about this band is that Ralph's vocals, way he chews around the synonyms, the way he pushes the words around his mouth and out, it's in a different league to a lot of the death metal vocalists. Really different league. There are words that he mentions that you hear him say in other songs which they give me a shiver the way that he enunciates them. And then we move on to The Rite, or The Writ, 2011, directed by Mikael Hellstrom. Not a movie that I've seen a lot of times. I have seen it. It's very much in the vein as The Exorcist, which we cover later on in this EP. It's about a priest. I will read you the synopsis. Though he is filled with doubt about the subject, seminary student Michael Kovac, Colin O'Donoghue, finds he must attend a Vatican school of exorcism. Believing possession to be the work of a troubled mind rather than actual demons, Hell urges his superiors to look for answers in psychiatry. Then Michael becomes the appropriate apprentice of a father, Lucas Anthony Hopkins. Not Hell, he urges, sorry. Typo on my part. A veteran exorcist and encounters a terrifying force that causes him to question everything he believes. Now, that was poorly read. I'll read that again. Though he is filled with doubt about the subject, seminary student Michael Kovac, Colin Donahue, finds he must attend a Vatican school of exorcism, believing possession to be the work of a troubled mind rather than actual demons. He urges the superiors to look for answers in psychiatry. Then Michael becomes the apprentice of Father Lucas Anthony Hopkins, a veteran exorcist, and encounters a terrifying force that causes him to question everything he believes. Now, I've read that right proper second time. It is what it is, okay? So it's basically about a man who, in a very common trope in exorcist movies and possession movies, the priest doubts the reality of faith, basically, in the absence of faith, is exactly what comes across. He is in the absence of faith. He finds it... And he finds it very, very hard to basically understand his own religion. What I forgot to mention, sorry, was the second song. That's the Carrie song. Is called "The Taste of Terror." This one is called "The God Forsaken." So again, it tells you what it's about, basically, on the package. He thinks God has forsaken him because he doesn't know, he doesn't feel that it's true. And then when something actually happens to him, and he's faced with the true reality of true fear and evil, he then has to fight his own personal demons to find his own true faith to help the victim of this movie. So, and again, the music in this particular track, it is one of my favourites on the album. I think they're all pretty bloody good, to be honest with you. But it's just, I don't know what to say, but bravo when it comes to this. It's powerful. It's got hooks in it. It's got great guitar solos. It's well beyond the scope of some of this other horror theme music, because it really takes its themes with reverence. It doesn't mock it. Doesn't joke about it. It takes it with quite severity and care, and that's what makes, I think, not a movie that I'd return to regularly. I have seen it, but he's a great director, Michael Hallstrom. I highly recommend you going and looking at these other movies. They're quite dark. And then we move on to the fourth track, based around the movie Saint Maud, directed by Rose Glass from 2019. This one is a really hard one for me to say. Self-Immolation in Fire. That's the name of this track. Self-Immolation in Fire. Again, has a really singing, catchable chorus. Self-Immolation in Fire is really stupidly catchy. I don't know why it is. It just is. I will read you I don't know why, this is bloody well made. I'll read you the synopsis. So, Saint Maud. Maud is a reclusive young nurse whose impressionable demeanour causes her to pursue a pious path of Christian devotion. After an obscure trauma, now charged with the hospice of care of Amanda, a retired dancer ravaged by cancer, Maud's fervent faith quickly inspires an obsessive conviction that she must save the ward's soul from eternal damnation, whatever the cost. Now, this one, like Apocalypse Now, isn't really a true possession movie. The possession of this, for me, is actually in the mind of Maud. I'm going to be honest with you. Of the 5 movies I've talked about, this one is very hard to watch. It's a difficult movie to go into if you're dealing with anyone with mental issues. So trigger warning on this. Don't go jumping into this movie if you are living with a family dementia with dementia, if you're living with any kind of mental condition that creates delusion, because this is basically what it is. It's this nurse's belief after her accident of a delusional, that her ward is going through this satanic possession, and she probably is actually, but the way in my mind it's portrayed, it's her. Now, I barely got to the end of this movie, so if I've got that wrong, I'm sorry, guys. I couldn't actually watch it right to the end. I found it a little bit tricky for me, a bit triggering. I hate the term triggering, but that's the key case for it. It's brilliantly directed by a female, and I'm not being sexist here. It's just she adds this empathy that you don't get with a lot of horror movies of this period. The lyric is quite sickening. The way that she talks about spewing forth fluids and damnation, and these images that Maud, I think, fills her brain with are quite disturbing. And yeah, anyway, I'll let you watch it or not watch it, but the song itself, really, again, brilliant solo, wonderfully paced, very dramatic, almost operatic, like it is on all the other songs on this album. It is gold standard death metal. This gold standard. I urge you, if you're listening to this, if not get a copy, definitely stream it as soon as you can, because it's a corker. Now, we've come from that rather tense and horrendous movie, and I mean that in the best kind of way, people, to The Exorcist. We end with The Exorcist, which is apt. Pardon me, very, very apt. The song's name is Possession, and to say that I think this is the finest example of horror-themed death metal there has ever been is going to be slightly understatement for me. I have listened to a lot of horror-themed death metal. I have, and this is, it just takes it takes the award. It's gold standard. They use tubular bells. They mix the tubular bells in, which is the theme tune to The Exorcist, in with the music. It's operatic. It's tense. It's atmospheric. It's beautiful. I will read you, for those that do not know about The Exorcist, the synopsis, as we have done all the others. Directed in 1973 by William Friedkin. One of the most profitable horror movies ever made. This tale of an exorcism is based loosely on actual events. When young Regan Linda Blair starts acting odd, levitating, speaking in tongues, her worried mother, Ellen Burstyn, seeks medical help, only to hit the dead end. The local priest, Jason Miller, however, thinks the girl may be seized by the devil. The priest makes a request to perform an exorcism, and the church sends in the expert Max von Sydow to help with the difficult job. Again, most people know The Exorcist. They will have either seen the poster, seen a clip, know about the head turning and the spitting of pea soup and the profanities with the cross and so on, and the controversy that it holds still in the world of Christian faith. It is, see the director's cut if you can. It's the better version. I'm not going to go into the movie. I'm just going to go into the music. There is this one lyric, and it says in the now let me just find it 1 second. Okay, where is the lyric? I wrote it down. 1 moment. Let me just pause that a second. Yes, sorry, I had to write it down because I didn't want to get it wrong. Levitation in the pose of Christ. It's just, it really, and the way that this music, I'm really struggling to describe this, how brilliant this is. This brilliant speed drumming at the beginning, this sort of choral, almost demonic church music underneath with Mike Oldfield's tubular bells blended in, some brilliant rhythmic guitars, very, very sparse lyrics. But when you get to that, whether it's, levitation in the prose of Christ, like you can feel the despair, the anguish, the lost, how do I fix this? Well, I think they're coming from the side of the demon, actually, on this particular track. I don't think it's not about fighting the demon. And I get this actually with the whole of this EP. It does, now I think about it, feel like it's coming from the opposite side of the fence. So instead of it being good against evil, it's evil against good, which is really refreshing. A lot of the, because we all like winners, don't we? We all want the good to overcome, and happy endings, I suppose. But I think that this itself just really helps to solidify the genre. It really is. It's like when I first heard At War with Satan. I originally picked the album up thinking it was at war against Satan, and I realised it was at war with Satan against the Venom album. And so it really I've talked about it on the podcast before. That terrified me as a 15-year-old when I first heard it. And I think this could do the same to a lot of people, actually. So as I said, brilliant, the best. I can't say enough. It's just, it hasn't come off my turntable in over a week, and I can't stop playing it. This particularly Possession is, I think it's because of the Tubular Bells, and I love Tubular Bells. I think it's because I love The Exorcist. I just think the way that the reverence that they put into this particular song. If this doesn't get an award, people, I'll give my day. I'll give up my job. It's just absolutely outrageously brilliant. It really, really is. Now, look. So as I said, with the movies, all of them I recommend. Just be careful with Saint Maud if you've got anything that might trigger. The rest of them are, apart from say Apocalypse Now, which also could be quite triggering for some people. The Exorcist these days, it still stands up, but it's nothing as damningly awful as some of the stuff that is sort of flushed in front of our eyes and peddled as horror movies when it's not really a horror movie. It's mainly just torture, extreme violence. I don't mind. As I said, I love a good gory movie, but there has to be a good reason for it. If it's going to be gory, let it be fun. I don't want too much ultra realism in my gore, I have to tell you. I don't mind it, but it gets very unnerving and very voyeuristic in some respects. Anyway, I think I must be aging. Might be my age, because when I was 16-year-old Tony would have gone, yeah, more blood, more guts, more blood, more guts, more blood, yeah, exploding heads, woo. I think I've sort of calmed down a bit now. It's a very nice single malt, that. If you're wondering to know what it is, it's a Bruichladdich 10-year-old extra peat. Very, very nice. Anyway, that's me for this week. It's a short episode because it is a little EP, just 5 tracks. I don't want to go too far and deep into the lyric, as I said. I want you to go and listen to it. Watch the movie, maybe, and in return listen to the song, or listen to the song and watch the movie if you're brave enough. And all the other bands I mentioned in the first part of the show, go and check them out. I will put them into the show notes below. And I'll actually remember this time. I usually forget. I will remember this time. And this is a 5-star, absolute, bone-crushing, brilliant record. And if you're going to buy it, go to Pulverized Records. Go directly to them if you I think probably so that Roy and the band get the most they can out of the royalties, because it is a difficult medium to make money in, and it is a difficult genre to keep ahead of. Anyway, that's enough for me. I'm going to go finish my single malt, finish editing this program, and anyway, chat to you next week. See you for now, guys. Keep safe, keep rocking. See you then. See ya. Bye.